Hey, I'm Kai, and today I'm checking out the brand new Mooer GE200 Plus. There are two versions. There is the GE200 Plus Li, which I have here. This version is rechargeable. They also have a non-rechargeable version available. I will reel off a few of the important specs and features, but I'll save a full deep dive for a future video. Currently, there are 270 effects packed into this one across all of the different model categories. However, that can always be subject to change with future updates. I think one of the main things to mention with these Mooer modelers is that they're able to load Mooer's GNR files. These are captures of guitar amps. Now, you can't capture amps yourself using this device, but you can load captures other people have created with devices like the GS1000, for instance. This unit functions as a low latency audio interface and also has Bluetooth capabilities if you'd like to jam along to backing tracks, for instance. This unit also features a looper and drum machine, but I won't be demoing those in this video as it's a little bit hard to navigate with the pedal on my desk like I normally have it set up. I did mess about with it a little bit off camera and I found myself really enjoying it. You can sync up the loop to the drum track so that it gives you a count in and automatically loops everything for you. It's also possible to switch presets with the looper still playing so that you can go from a clean tone to a rhythm tone to a lead tone and even stack some bass on it if you'd like to. There are 255 user preset slots on this one, split between the factory presets and empty presets for you to write over. Now let's get this one set up and I'll grab my guitar. Now, checking out some of these stock presets is usually my first port of call whenever I try out a new modeler. It gives me a good idea of what the modeler sounds like and how the manufacturer have intended for it to sound. I am using the desktop editor to control everything just because that's my preferred workflow. However, you can navigate everything on the device itself. If we scroll through the list of presets, you can see that everything is in these sort of banks of 3. This is so that you can select any bank and then quickly swap between the 3 presets in the bank using the foot switches. So for instance, if I click onto this rock crunch, then the 3 foot switches are going to be rock crunch, rock rhythm, and rock solo. Also, once you've got a preset open like this, you can tap the foot switch again and it will pull up the stomp box mode. For the solo tone, the stomps we have available are the tap tempo, the boost, as well as the delay. Let's dig through a couple more of these preset banks and see what we find ourselves enjoying. I quite like the idea of this Green Day inspired bank where we've got Wake Me Up, which is going to be Wake Me Up When September Ends. We've got Broken Dreams, which is of course Boulevard of Broken Dreams, and we've got Holiday. This should give us a nice range of tones available. I definitely could have played something more Green Day inspired for that, but I just generally like playing about with tones instead. This is still a great way to go through the presets. I do also just want to try the first British crunch preset on the unit. This is the British GE200 preset. Not a huge fan of that, but we'll move on, we'll see what else we can find. Let's load up a third-party impulse response from ML Sound Lab and see if this tone gets any better. We're going to go over to the Manager tab, and then under Third IRs, we're going to add one from the list. Then to add this impulse response, we just click on the cabinet, go over to GIR, and then double-click on the impulse response. Definitely sounding a little bit better, but I'll get into my own preset that I created a little bit later on. I found myself really enjoying the GE200 heavy preset, but it was a little bit too effect heavy, so we'll turn off the delay. Yeah, that's pretty good actually. So as I mentioned previously, I dialed in a few tones off camera just so that I've got something to play through for this demo. Nothing super extreme, just a big ambient clean tone and then two variations of a high gain tone. I do also want to show off what that sounds like without all of the wet effects, so I have set that up on the foot switch and I've assigned multiple things to a single switch. That's a pretty basic preset that I've got going on. It's just the yellow compressor going into the US Deluxe, then a US Twin cabinet, and then we've just got a little bit of EQ afterwards. Now we'll move over to my rhythm tone, and this is a super straight up basic rhythm tone. We have an overdrive, we have a 5150 style amp, we have a 4x12, and we have a gate. While we're in this rhythm preset, I do also want to try out the polyphonic pitch shifter, as this is something I get asked about pretty much without fail every single time I demo a modeler. I noticed that all of the pitch shifters in the stock preset are after the amp, so I found myself moving them before the amp just so they're a little bit cleaner. I'm actually going to engage this one on the unit itself just so you can see generally how to navigate the unit. We're going to click on the mod block, which should take us to the polyphonic pitch shifter, and then we can scroll over and then just activate it. Yeah, it's really not great. It sounds like it's almost got like a reverby kind of thing going on, doubling the sound, almost kind of like a speech jammer. It's quite hard to play to. Let's see what happens if we move it after the amp, just in case that's what it needs to do. No, that's even slower, even darker. Generally not a huge fan of that. Finally, for the tones, we will hear the lead tone I've got set up. This is pretty much the same as the rhythm tone, but I've tweaked the EQ a little bit, and I've also added in some wet effects. On to the conclusion now, and I do need to mention first that this is a sponsored video. That said, I've been doing demos with Mooer for a long time now, and they are very receptive to feedback. I will happily speak my mind when it comes to Mooer products, both for the negatives and for the positives. Hopefully the tones you're hearing from the unit can speak for themselves to some degree as well. I always enjoy checking out budget modelers just to see what the current sort of state of things is, and Mooer are always impressing me with what they're able to do at the price points they're doing them at. Overall, I'm really impressed with what the GE200 Plus has to to offer. It's sort of a double-edged sword. You can either go for the packed out powerhouse type thing that's really hard to use, or you can go for a more simplistic route and keep things nice and easy. You may find that the GE200 Plus is lacking in features for what you need it to do, but you also might find that it's the perfect modeler to get into as a first modeler, for instance. For example, you can't use this one in 4-cable method with a real tube amp. That is to say that you can't run the drives in front of the amp and the wet effects in the effects loop. It also doesn't have MIDI inputs and MIDI outputs, so while the 3-foot switches may be enough for you for a live set, you aren't able to expand on that with dedicated MIDI foot switches, and instead you're forced to use something like the Mooer F4, which is a 4-button Bluetooth controlled wireless foot switch. I really like how all of the user interface works on this one, even though it does kind of look like it was a touchscreen that's been ported over to control with a single knob instead. I got up and running with everything super fast. You can go to the home screen to see all of your signal flow, you can tap any of the buttons and it'll take you straight to that effect. It's just really easy to fly through. The sounds, of course, are pretty great. I don't expect major things from these budget modelers, and of course if you put it up against something like the Fractal FM3, you're probably going to prefer the Fractal, but this is a great unit considering the price. They could stand to update their cabinet engine, and that's something that I would really like to see them do in the future. Loading in some higher quality impulse responses would really improve the overall sound of the unit. This is something I explored in a previous video where I shot out loading impulse responses straight onto the unit versus loading them in my DAW instead, and the DAW one won out in a big way. As for the effects in the unit, I think this has got pretty much everything covered. If you were building out all of the staple effects, this has got every single one of them. It doesn't have some of the crazier things like cloud reverbs, for instance, but you can still build out a big ambient pad reverb using something like the plate reverb. Side note, drop a comment down below and let me know if you'd like to see a deeper dive into the effects of this unit. I've got quite a few pedals here that I could shoot out the Mooer against to see where its strengths and weaknesses are. That is all I've got for this first impressions video though, so thank you ever so much to Mooer for sending this one out for review purposes. Be sure to check out the affiliate links linked down in the description box below. It goes a long way towards helping me out. Until next time though, I've been Kai.